East Coast horror group. And his partner in crime, Mr. Drew Seiler. All right, everybody, what's going on? So we're going to start out with bringing up Bill Moseley and Mr. Sid Haig. All right, guys, we're going to do a little something different today with these guys. We've done the Rejects and Horses reunion here. So if you guys have any questions about Rob Zombie's Rejects, let's ask them now because we're going to get to know these guys a little bit different.
We should get over there. Well, I'll go.
Anybody?
Because I want to see these wonderful people behind the brown chair.
Right over here.
Yeah, stage direction. Well, my question is, look at this little horse. Isn't that cute?
I hate this horse. How do you know what this horse is about?
This horse is about a trusted art.
Oh, well, okay.
Whatever that
means. To be about 2.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
My question is regards to the DVD menu for House of 1,000 Corpses. I was wondering, was that like scripted, or did Captain Spaulding just kind of go on and on and on and on and do his own thing, or how did that go?
I got the script for that a little after midnight, the night before we were supposed to start shooting it the next day. Excuse me. So I went in the morning and I said, Rob, I can work under pressure, but this is a little crazy. You don't expect me to memorize that thing, do you? He goes, well, no, do you have the high points? The things that you have to hit? I said, yeah, I understand where it has to go. And so he handed me a jelly donut and a porno magazine and said, go. Well, that was that. Fun.
That's why he was shot from the waist up, so you couldn't see the jelly donut.
Yeah. No, my last bite of the jelly donut turned into this.
Yeah, right. That's good.
Hello, thank you folks for fielding my question. My favorite non-Rob Zombie film is The Haunted World of El Super Visto, and we never hear much about it, but either one of you want to talk about doing sound for that particular film? And Mr. Moseley, thank you for being both Genetic Opera. You made my millennial with that movie.
Thanks. I just did, for Haunted World of El Super Visto, I just did like 2 hours. I went to, a recording studio on Cahuenga Boulevard in Los Angeles, and went upstairs, shook a few hands, had a jelly donut, and then just sat in front of a mic and just did a couple of lines for that. So, but I think that wasn't Rob. Part of the allure of us being a part of El Super Visto was people would say, we want a sequel to Devil's Rejects. Why can't the Fireflies and Driftwood get together one more time? And of course, that was then they could say, well, we did it for El Super Visto. Right.
Well, I wound up on El Super Visto, I think, more because of you guys, because there was a lot of stuff online saying, well, where's Sid Haig? Because he was announcing who was going to be in El Super Visto. And where's Sid Haig? Where's Sid Haig? Where's Sid Haig? Where's Sid Haig? And I said, okay. It took me longer to park my car than it did to do the lines for El Super Visto. Yeah, but it was fun. We had a good time.
Can't beat it. Beats working.
Anything beats work.
Thank you for the shout out to Repo and assuming the Devil's Carnival 1 and 2. And speaking of fan pressure, please let Darren and Terrence know that I'm counting on them to deliver on a promise that for Devil's Carnival 3, the magician gets his own song. So anyway, please.
just depends on, you know, a production company that says, can we handle those two idiots?
We have the same agent now too.
Yeah.
Sid and I are under the same agency roof.
Yeah. So, you know, might happen down the road. We actually were in a film together. We didn't work together, but it was called Dead Calling, where I played a straight up Norman Rockwell dad, and he was a cop. You can't get any farther away from rejects.
Yeah. I got killed.
You did get killed. So did I. Shit.
Oh, you got killed too?
Right at the end.
Damn.
Like we're jumping.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right, Bill. So let's talk about another famous character that you played. How did you get involved in playing Chop Top?
Well, you know, I back in 76, I actually saw this movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Excuse me. And you know, it freaked me out so much that I had to see it a bunch more times, and all that did was freak me out even more. And I was shocked by the Sawyer family, and especially by the hitchhiker played by Ed Neal. And that character just freaked me out, especially when he cuts his own thumb just to scare other people. I mean, you know, usually monsters will kill you, but they don't like turn it on themselves. So that freaked me out. What finally got me out of my terror, well, the terror inspired me to make a short film called The Texas Chainsaw Manicure, set in a beauty parlor. And woman goes in, gets her hair done, wants a manicure, and out from the back of the shop comes Leatherface with a chainsaw, and he starts sawing her hands, giving her this manicure. And she screams and passes out. You think probably that she's going to wake up, if she ever wakes up, with a couple of stumps. And instead she wakes up, she's got a beautiful manicure. And she minces out of the shop to show her husband, me, in the pickup truck, and I am dressed in like Ed Neal. And I go, hey, she goes, look, I got the best manicure ever. I go, hey, that's great, honey. We should celebrate this in the head cheese. And I actually had gone out and bought some head cheese, which I do not recommend. And I had head cheese, which doesn't really look like much, but you know, it's like scrotums and nostrils and everything, like eyeball jelly. It's like everything they don't use in any other meat, I guess, or product from the pork. Anyway, so I had this, you know, and in one take, I actually licked the head cheese, which really I don't recommend. Anyway, long story shorter, a friend of mine was a screenwriter in Hollywood. I was in New York at the time. My screenwriter friend was across the hall in Paramount Pictures, across the hall from Toby Hooper. And I was out visiting for another reason and gave this guy a VHS copy of the manicure. He said, look, I'd love to walk it into Toby Hooper. He did. Toby saw it. Toby especially liked the manicure, and he especially liked my characterization of the hitchhiker. And so 2 years after, that was 84, and 2 years after that, 1986, I got a call saying, where do we send the contracts? I said, for what? I said, well, you know, for Chainsaw 2. I went, oh, okay, I'll get back to you. And I had met an agent at a Christmas party, so I called her up and said, hey, you know, would you negotiate a contract? She said, sure, it's free money. So she called me back and said, well, you know, at the time I was a writer in New York City, so I was maybe making about $250, $300 a week. And this agent called me back and said, well, they want you for this movie. I went, oh, golly. And she said, but I got bad news. It's only a SAG scale. And I just thought, oh, SAG scale? I had no idea what that meant. I said, well, what does that mean in terms of money? And she said, well, it's only $1,600 a week. I went, I think I can handle that. She said, well, you know, the other bad news is they want you to shave your head. I went, oh, okay. And she said, so, you know, I got you an extra $5,000 to shave your head. I was like, whoa, that's insane. So that's how I got into showbiz, I guess. So that's the long and short of it.
So Chop Top and Otis are in a room together. Who walked out alive?
Luigi. I would have to say, yeah, it's a fight to the finish. Yeah, there's no clear winner. How about that for a political concept? Yeah, make America great again. Make horror great again. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, make horror great again. We get little red caps. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to bring politics into this. Not on the subject.
So Sid, in spite of being you played a mute, talk about the challenges for an actor to convey emotion when you have the lines.
Well, I played a role mute in another film, and it was a totally different thing because psychologically, there was a reason for it. But when I got Spider-Man, the thing is, Jack Hill gave me a call because I had done a couple of pictures for him already, his student film and at UCLA, and then another film after that. Roger Corman was producing, and he said, "I got this role that I think you're probably the only person that could pull it off, and I want you to come by the office and meet the producers and just kind of work something out." And I said, "Oh, well, this is weird." So he sent me the script, and I said, "Okay, so yeah, it is weird." Because I don't know how many people have seen Spider Baby. Okay, all right, okay. Because it's about this family that regresses the older they get. So by the time they're like 30 years old, they're pretty much animals, and it's up to the youngins to feed dead bodies to their older relatives. And I'm well on my way, let's put it that way. And so I've just lost all ability to talk, and it's just a guy that is turning himself into an animal just because of this Marius syndrome that they have. And so I had no point of reference. There was no psychological profile for something like this, so I decided that I would just use what I had of character to build something. So I hung out in front of the primate cages at the zoo for a long time, and watched all the gorillas and chimps and everything interacting with one another. And so I said, okay, I got that down. And then, remember, this was before you could get arrested for going to a playground. I would go to the playground and watch the kids play, because he was childlike, but at the same time he was animal-like. So I took those two things and slammed them together and created Ralph Merry. Yeah.
So Sid, you worked with Pam Grier a lot earlier in your career. Can you talk about that relationship and your time on set with her?
Yeah. Somebody asked Pam that at the Denver Comic-Con, and her answer is, no, we did not fuck. I did her very first picture with her, which was the Big Dollhouse, women's prison picture. And it was goofy and crazy, and the thing is, see, you get the idea as an audience that people work together and they form relationships and they either get along or they don't get along. And in some cases, most cases that's true, but in this case, Jack had talked to me about Pam Grier. I found this girl, it's her very first job. She's absolutely amazing. She's gorgeous. She's got charisma all over the place, and you're going to love her. And I said, yeah, okay. Let's just do the job, all right? So we get on the set, and he said, this is Pam Grier. Pam Grier said, hey, boom, boom, boom. And so we do our very first scene together. The very first scene, like 10 minutes after we met, was where she's trying to convince me to stage the breakout in the prison so the women can get out of prison. And she does that by grabbing my hand and sticking it up her crotch. What a way to meet somebody. Okay, instant relationship. So it was, and then after we did that scene, we broke for lunch. And it was the most sexually charged hour that anybody has ever experienced. I mean, there's a dozen people in a room eating, nobody saying a word, everybody looking straight ahead. And finally, Bobby Collins, who was one of the girls in the film, just came up to me and she said, you know, there's not going to be a dry pair of pants in the house, okay? And I said, okay. And then, you know, we shot the second scene where I put my hand up her dress and started massaging her boobies. So we just, that's how our relationship started. But she's like my little sister. I mean, I take care of her, she takes care of me, we had one another's back. When you're working in the Philippines, kicking snakes and spiders out of the way just to go find a bush to, you know, relieve yourself, shall we say, you get that kind of protective thing for one another. And some of the girls, you know, the Beverly Hills, well, I'm good. So I'll go find a bush. But take somebody with you to watch out for snakes and spiders. And that's it. That's the thing at the end, like the sixth film that I did with her, which was Jackie Brown. Quentin Tarantino never told her that he had cast me as the judge in that film. And so when she walked in and saw me in the black dress, she cracked up laughing and just hit the floor. And we hadn't seen one another in 27 years, and it was like we had lunch the day before. And our relationship just picked up right where it left off. Some people used to form that bond and it just never goes away.
So though you portrayed Johnny, so we kind of a little bit. Talk about working on that film and how you put your own spin in such a classic character.
Well, actually, I got a I think it was before email existed, but I got a message from Tom Savini saying that he had just gotten, he was the director, going to be the director of the remake of Night of the Living Dead, and he wanted to send me a script, and he said, pick any character. So I got the script in the mail, I read it, I thought it was great. I loved kind of the new Barbara approach, and so what I wanted to play was, I guess it's Harry. It's the character in the basement, the bad guy, basically, that Tommy Tolles played, because it had the most pages, and therefore I figured out that it would probably pay the most. So that was my basis for picking it. I'd like to say it was an artistic choice, but it was a financial one. And so I said, yeah, let's play Harry, the guy in the basement. And Tom responded, pick any character, just make sure it's Johnny. Like, oh. So Russ Snyder, of course, made that role, created that role. And so what I wanted to do was to get my Boris Karloff accent down. So I ended up going to see a movie. I had seen a movie called Die Monster Die, an old Boris Karloff, Nick Adams movie, based on an H.P. Lovecraft story, I guess. And so I rented the VHS and just went over and over and got my Boris Karloff accent down. And so when we got to Washington, PA, I think it was 90 or 91, I think I shot on Earth Day, I remember that part. And I was able to finally, start the scene by going, "I'm to get you, Barbara," and that was very exciting. But then we had from the car to our mother's grave, it's about a 10-minute walk, and there was no dialogue written, for our walking scene. So I ended up ad-libbing, "They'll hold you, Barbara. They've been dead a long time." Just a teaser. She was very prissy, and George liked that, Tom liked that. So, it was a lot of fun. It was what was interesting about that also, as I recall, was that John Coolidge was, part of the special effects makeup crew, and John had worked with me on Chainsaw 2, and so they had created a Johnny body double out of latex. And the big question was, I get into a bit of a tiff with a zombie in the cemetery, and I the zombie trips me. I'm winning, by golly, but the zombie trips me, and we both go down, and I hit my head on that gravestone, and that's the end of Johnny. And so the question was, do I, the real Bill, do I fall onto a fake gravestone, or do I use the dummy to fall onto a real gravestone? And they chose the dummy, and thank God. And it looks really cool. It's a pretty gnarly fall, and I hit my head. So that was the end of Johnny. Now I knew that in the original Night of the Living Dead, that Johnny does come back. See, it's Black Driving Club. He comes in and he, with a bunch of zombies, kind of takes his sister out of the, I guess they eat her for standing up. So what I said to Tom Savini was, look, I got this great idea. Let's have Johnny come back, and Barbara is freaked out. Oh my God, it's Johnny! And I walk into the living room, and I'm just slowly coming toward her to kill her, and she can't do anything because it's her brother. And Tony Todd comes into the room with a machete and just kind of absentmindedly lops off my head. And my head rolls, and Barbara goes, Johnny! And, that old, the myth of, the guillotine, and you've got the rolling head, and it's got about 2 seconds of consciousness left. And she goes, Johnny! And my eyes go up, and, that's the end of it. And I said that to Tom. I said, wouldn't that be cool? He said, we don't have the budget for that. So instead, they just, the reveal of Johnny is just, my dummy in the back of a pickup truck. Because they really didn't have the money for that. So, but it was, a lot of people have said to me over the years that they actually like the Savini color version more than the original. I don't know about that, but I think that's a great testament to Tom Savini and to his directing skills. I thought he did a great job. It was so much fun to work with him. And to tell you the truth, I'm surprised that Tom hasn't gone on to a much bigger directing career.
So Sid, recently released this Bone Tomahawk, what we see that you were in the other part of that. Why don't you tell the folks how you got involved in some of your time with Bone Tomahawk?
A lot of times the whole process of getting a role is complicated. You go for a reading and you get a call back, and then there's a second call back, and da. And in this case, they called my agent and they said, we want Sid Haig. And she said, yes. And we made the deal, and it was done. Because the director had a wish list of actors that he had for all the roles, and I was on that list. So it was really an easy peasy kind of deal. Shooting the film, however, was a whole different story. We were shooting at this place called Stevenson's Ranch, which is like 3 miles east of no fucking where. And it was 110 degrees, and I had the long johns on, a long sleeve shirt on top of that, and a wool coat over the top of that all day long. And but working with David Arquette was so much fun. We just had a great time together. And that was basically it. But to show you what a classy production company it was, at the end of the day, I was really done. Because of the heat, and I lost all my hydration and everything else. And yeah, my electrolytes went out. And I went to the first AD and I said, I hate to say this, but I don't think I can make it home. Because you have to drive to the location, right? Which is about 60 miles from my house. And he said, don't worry about it. Get into your street clothes. And then by the time I stepped out of my dressing room, there was a guy waiting to drive me in my car to my house. And when we got there, there was a cab waiting for him to take him back to the set. So that's a pretty classy operation. I was really grateful for that.
I thought you were going to say they pointed you to a tent.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. That because, some companies, you can expect that kind of thing to happen. There's a bale of hay, go away on that. Oh, thanks a lot.
Granola bars.
Yeah, right. So that was, but has anybody seen Bone Tomahawk? Yeah, I think they did a really well job on that. It was intelligently written. I think it was shot very well. Everybody's performance was spot on. Kurt Russell was amazing. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go take a look. And it's a horror western that you don't see every day. You know?
So Sid, you were in a little film called Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
Talk about working on a production that size and just being in a Bond film.
Being in a Bond film was just magic to begin with, okay? And for some reason, that was another thing where I was just on Guy Hamilton's wish list for being in the film. And so the call was made, it was made, and I show up in Las Vegas and met Sean Connery, who was a great guy, totally honest when he's on, he's having a great day, he's laughing and joking and having a great time. He's pissed off, just go someplace else. But yeah, it was a great time. I had a lot of stuff to do, like throw the topless llama wood out the window of the hotel. We were able to do that every day. Connery just hated the wig. He hated to wear the wig. And so when they, at the end of the day, and they would holler, well, that's a wrap. He'd just rip it off his head and throw it in the air. And if there happened to be a hairdresser under it when it landed, okay. But if not, so what? And then dealing with shooting in Las Vegas is a whole different thing because it's like a crazy, well, anybody been to Vegas, you know how crazy it is, okay? And we were staying at the Riviera Hotel, and I was walking through to go to the restaurant to get something to eat, and I saw this group of people around the table. I said, I wonder what's going on over there. And they were playing Baccarat. And it was a $50,000 buy-in. And I looked, and Cubby Broccoli, who was the producer of the show, he was the creator of the whole Bond situation, was at the Baccarat table. His chin on his hand, chugging $10,000 worth of chips out at a time, getting the draw, losing and sending out another 10,000, losing and sending out. I watched him lose like $60,000 in 10 or 12 minutes. I said, my survival instincts are very sharp. I said, you know what? If he looks up and sees me, I'm going to get blamed for him losing $12,000. So I just got the hell out of there and went and got something to eat. But to work on that film was very cool, very, very cool.
Bill, I love the event series. You were a part of it in Army of Darkness. Can you talk about your role there and how that came to be?
I was a big fan of the second Evil Dead. I hadn't seen the first Evil Dead, but I saw Evil Dead 2, and it came out right after Chainsaw 2. I remember seeing it in Los Angeles with my then pregnant girlfriend. That pregnancy turned into my 28-year-old daughter, so that was a little while ago, so it was 28 years ago. But I loved Evil Dead 2 so much that I ended up writing the director Sam Raimi a letter saying, I was John Don from Chainsaw 2, I'd love to work with you, blah, blah, blah. And he wrote back. This is back in the days of letters, weird things. Anyway, he wrote back and said, I'd love to get together with you. So we got together at a little Hollywood watering hole, we sold frames, and exchanged, I love you, I love Evil Dead 2, I love you in Chainsaw 2. So he ended up offering me a job as the new captain of the Army of the Dead. And so that's what I was. I ended up under, it was KMP with the special effects makeup. So I was wearing about 30 pounds of rubber. I had an eye patch. I was an Evil Dead character. I had an eye patch over one eye. I had a sclera lens, which is a milky white, full eyeball contact over the other eye. And my big scene was for me to lead the charge of the Evil Dead on the castle where Ash and company were holed up. And I can ride a horse, but what they did was so I'm on the saddle. It's like 4 in the morning. I got all this makeup on, 20 pounds of rubber. I got an eye patch over one eye. My other eye is blind from the sclera lens. Through the eye patch, they have like a little pinhole, so I can kind of see a little bit. And I look down. There's down a hill, down a slope. There's a meadow, and the meadow is filled with extras, with torches and real pikes, which is kind of a medieval spear. and they say, okay, well, we're going to need you to, gallop down and lead the army of the dead, and charge the castle and go through this, the sea of extras with torches and pikes. So I go, okay. And they said, oh yes, one other thing. Not only do we want you to do all this, pretty much blind, but we want you to, in a very subtle way, we want you to hold the reins of another horse, because the other horse has a rubber skeleton in the saddle. And so we want to make it look like it's like actually, riding its own horse. But you're going to be pulling that horse. I went, okay. And so, they said, okay, and action. It's like, oh, charge. So I started galloping this horse downhill, towing another horse, can't see a damn thing. All these people with torches and pikes, and I made it. Oh God, it's such a relief. And then he said, that was great. We need to do another take. It wasn't good for camera or whatever. And so I did a second charge. I was like, oh God, and I think I prayed. Praise God, keep this up. George, towing this horse and going through. Everybody's got their pikes, and then they said, okay, almost got it. We just need one more take. And so by this time, I don't know what I'm praying at this point. And I did it one more time. I did it one more time, and I survived. And Sam Raimi was on a camera crane. He had like a little French beret. He had literally a megaphone, like not an electrophone, just a megaphone. He was kind of channeling his inner Cecil B. DeMille, I guess. And he was going, yes, my beautiful rotten minions, and calling out to us. And I was, by the third charge, I was a little, pissed off, I guess, frightened. And I rode up underneath him, and I looked up, and he's on his camera crane, and I said, I act too! And I kind of broke down. Anyway, so I survived Evil Dead 2.
I got a horse story for you. See, people don't understand about horses and movies and things, okay? There's trained film horses, and then there's just horses, okay? And depending on the budget of the film or TV series that you're working on, you either get a trained horse or you get some piece of shit horse that doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. And I was doing, no, it wasn't How the West was.
Alias Smith.
Yeah, no. I was doing some cheap-ass television western, and they would go around to different ranches, and they said, you want your horse to be in the film? Well, yeah, hell yes, and we'll give you $10 a day. A trained film horse is like $200 a day. So he said, oh, $10, I can buy another bale of hay, okay? So, boom, you get this horse that you don't know what's going on with the horse, and right off the bat, we get ready to shoot this scene, and all I have to do, I play a hijacker, so I have to pull up the bandana, and just right past the camera, and that's the end of it. Pretty simple. Well, they have the clapboard, you've seen those clapboards, right? And they say, okay, scene 47, take one, clap, and the horse went straight in the air, because he'd never seen or heard one of those things before. So, okay, calm down, we'll try this again. Same thing happened. I said, excuse me, can we end slate this? Which means that after I pass the camera, we bring in the slate and do it. It's nowhere near the horse, okay? Shut up, you do your job, we'll do ours. get that attitude. And so I said, okay. So I timed it so that just as the guy was ready to clap the clapboard, I slapped the horse between the ears, and it went, and we got the shot done. And so I'm supposed to now chase this station wagon that we're going to rob, okay, and pull up the lead horse. And I get about 20 feet in back of the stagecoach, and the horse hears all the trace chains and the metal wheels and all of that stuff, and goes nuts and makes a right-hand turn into the desert. And I'm trying to pull this horse back onto the path, and it's not having anything to do with it. So we do 2 or 3 of those things. Finally, I had it, and I rode the horse up to the director, and I said, here, you do it. And so the guy that owned the horse was there, and the director says, can you do that? He said, hell yes, my horse. Okay. So I said, here, pal, take my wardrobe, have fun. So we got a duplicate wardrobe, and the guy gets on his horse, and they start the scene, and it was like the horse said, you treacherous son of a bitch, and made the right turn, and threw him into a big cluster of chara cactus. Okay? And they had to haul his ass to Phoenix, and for 3 hours they were picking stickers out of his ass. Okay? So, you know, don't look at a Western and say, oh God, that looks like fun. No, I don't think so.
So Bill, as mentioned before, Repo, the genetic opera, talk about working on that film and a little bit about working with Ogre.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I got hired by Darren. And anyway, so Darren contacted me and said, I'd like to have you in this movie, Repo, the genetic opera. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. I had actually seen a stage show directed by Darren of Repo in Hollywood, like a little storefront theater in Hollywood years before. So I knew basically the story of Repo. And he said, yes, we want to hire you for the part of either Luigi or Pazzi. You know, it's like you can choose. But we need to know, we know you can kill, but can you sing? And I had given Darren, maybe at a convention, I had given him some corn bugs, corn bugs band that I did you don't know, and I did the vocals on the corn bugs, and Buckethead, and those areas, guitar shredder. Anyway, so I had given Darren some corn bug CDs, and I said, well, he said, well, can you sing? And I said, well, I gave you those corn bug CDs. He goes, yeah, but can you sing? Anyway, so I said, well, because I had been taking singing lessons. I do that every week and so he said, well, you're going to practice this song and show up, and we need to audition you as a singer. Okay. So I took the song. It was called Night Surgeon, and I took that to my singing teacher, and we worked on it. We actually worked on the song, not only the singing of it, but kind of the dramatic build up of the song. And I got to the studio for my big audition, and I was in the control room looking into the studio itself, and there in the studio is one of the, it was the Pussycat Girls, right? Pussycat Dolls? Yeah, the Pussycat. I was going to say the Spice Girl. It wasn't the Pussycat Doll. And she was singing some part, but she was singing some part and, really owning it. She was singing naked. She had a great voice. It was tremolo. And of course, I'd look at that and I'd just think, I am fucked. I'm not doing that. So they, said, thank you very much. And so I said, okay, you're next. And it was like, oh, for me, auditions, it's hard enough. But then, you see somebody that's really knocking it out of the park. So anyway, I got to the mic. They showed me how to put the headphones on, and here's the mic. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And but then I started to talk into the mic, and that's how I got the part. It was a golden microphone. Now there's the golden ticket, and Willie This was the golden microphone. It was like, I don't know what kind of mic it was. I should have taken it with me, but it probably cost $10,000. But it just made me sound great. And so I was like, wow, hello. So I got excited about it. And, they started playing the music, and I started singing along. And, the mic was so friendly that it really just, cut her loose. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it was good or not, but good enough. And so they gave me the part. On the set of Repo, I did meet Ogre, lead singer of Skinny Puppy, and we became great friends. He ended up playing Poppy. I didn't want to play Poppy because it was a makeup role, and I didn't want to get up at 4 in the morning and have them glue a bunch of stuff on my face. So I chose Luigi. I mean, I wish there were, again, more of an artistic reason for my choice. But since I was given the choice, I thought, do I want to sleep another 2 hours? So it worked out great because he was, I can't imagine anybody other than Ogre playing Poppy. We became great friends, and then, after that, I ended up doing some spoken word on his solo album, Devils in My Details. We're still great pals, to this day. And actually, we just talked last week, and it looks like we might, I think this next week, we might be actually doing some music together. I suggested that we do cowboy songs, kind of cowboy and campfire songs. So I think we're going to be actually doing that next week. So, yeah.
Grandsons of the pioneers.
Yeah, right. The cactus that's stuck in that guy's head. Spine.
The thing is,
That'll be our new name.
see, and there's timing involved in this business too, because if the timing was right, I might have been in Repo with you, because I was doing a panel with Berg, the producer. What's his first name? Jeff Berg, something like that. And he said,
You should know that.
Yeah.
That's the guy that writes the checks.
Yeah, I said, I'm producing Darren Klausman's film, and I said, oh, cool. He said, can you sing? And I said, well, yeah. Okay. He said, you got to be quick. I got to have a tape for you because we're finishing up casting in the next couple of days and all that. So I like a stupid idiot, sent him this blues song that I did, and of course that was what they were looking for. But if I had, time to work on it, we might have even been doing that film together.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I still see a Sid and Bill show with a couple of straw boaters and canes and white spats, doing a kind of a Vegas thing.
Yeah, we could do that. That'd be fucking boring.
Doesn't have to be, especially for the person to play.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If they hit the cane and it blows up, and that's the end.
Or the cane is like a machine gun.
Wait a second. Now we're writing a script.
Yeah, right.
Just excuses for a minute.
Yeah, right.
Talk amongst yourselves for a while. Right.
Enter Sid.
Yeah.
So then, speaking of your music, you and another guest, Phil Anselmo, have recently done some music together. Can you tell us anything about that? How that came about?
Yes. Last March, I've been pals with Phil Anselmo for a couple of years, ever since we interviewed each other for something called ArtistDirect.com. And my daughter Jane, my older daughter, is a total metal fan, and so by interviewing Phil, of course, I went up in esteem in her eyes, so that's important. But anyway, Phil is a real horror movie expert, and he's turned me on to a bunch of cool horror movies. He knows a lot more about it than I do. I just act in them. But Phil, has turned me on to a bunch of movies and everything, and I kind of wanted to make music with Phil, do something together. But it's kind of like saying, excuse me, Mr. McCartney, I've got a band and we need a bass player. Anyway, or Flea, I know that was a reference to the Beatles. You probably but anyway, but Phil finally said, okay, you come down here. He lives in the woods in Louisiana. He said, you get down here. I got a couple days apart. I So I went down last March, and I showed up. I had some lyrics in my hands, and I said, well, yeah, let's do some music, and kind of figuring that Phil would sing, and Phil goes, I ain't singing. I'll do the music. You sing. I'm like, oh no. So anyway, so that's what we're going to hear. I think Phil was going to play something yesterday, but he spilled some beer on his laptop, so we weren't able to. For those of you who are looking forward to that, but my laptop has no beer on it, and I have just a little snippet of a song. I think we'll play "Dirty Eye." Don't tell anybody that this is still top secret music and everything. But yeah, let me try to figure this out. I know your skills. All right,
Don't you talk amongst yourself for a while.
No, I can. Okay, ready? So this is "Dirty Eye," and if it works, you'll hear it. No, that's not "Dirty Eye." Wait a minute. That was that focus person. Yeah. Dirty Guy. You can bang your head if you want. Bill. No, that is what you're going to hear about the Bill Hill. We play a little fade it out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, give it up to Phil over here, Sid Haig.
All right, thank you.
All right,